Hello, welcome back to my channel if you have been here before. If not, welcome for the first time. Thank you for clicking on this video. So today is Wednesday, and typically on Wednesdays I either do lesson type of material for guitar or songwriting or analysis. Today I figured I would give 3 tips for beginners that make learning guitar easier. None of it is necessarily technical as far as what I'm going to speak about, but the things I'm going to recommend will more than likely make your life a lot easier while you're learning guitar. So, number 1 for me is if you are just learning guitar, you're just starting, I highly recommend learning on an electric guitar and not an acoustic. It seems very common for beginners to start on acoustic guitar because then that way you don't need like an amp and stuff. So like if you want to like play for people, then you can kind of just go with the acoustic unplugged and you can still hear it anyway. But I can't stress enough how much easier it is on your fingers and your hand and the muscles that are still learning these chord shapes to play on an electric guitar versus an acoustic. The action is very high on an acoustic. It takes a lot more muscle and power to like hold down these bar chords or whatever you're playing on an acoustic than it is opposed to an electric. An electric is much easier to press down the strings to the frets because the action is lower. So that is my number 1 recommendation for anyone that's really starting out on guitar. They don't know much and they want to learn. That is definitely the way to go, is get it can be a cheap electric too. It doesn't even matter. Get a really cheap electric and learn on that first. So once you have the muscle memory on the electric guitar and say you want to go to acoustic after that, it'll be much easier transferring from electric to acoustic versus trying to straight up start on acoustic. I always fear that people who are learning on acoustic at the beginning might lose interest because it's going to be a lot harder to get down like bar chords, for example, on an acoustic at first than it would be on electric. If you want like a cheap version, I recommend going to Donner. I'm not sponsoring anybody in this video. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I'm just giving recommendations as to what my personal opinions and tastes, but they make really good gear that's super affordable. So if you're looking for like a cheap like Stratocaster, definitely go to them. You'll see me playing one of their strats on my page pretty often. So yeah, I do recommend that if you're looking for a specific cheaper guitar to start learning on. Number 2 is use a thicker pick. A lot of beginners tend to just start with whatever pick they're given, and that usually is these like medium or thin picks. I think I have like a medium one. Yeah, here it is. The classic Fender medium, right? Should I be like a... That kind of helps though. I'm like an beauty influencer or something. But like, look how thin that is. The reason I stress using thicker picks is because it's more accurate when you're playing strings. When there's too much leeway in the pick, it becomes hard to be able to gauge and tell where each string is when you're learning. It's really flimsy. It's easier to get a sense of where each string is and how much spacing there is between each string on your guitar when you're using a thick pick, because there's little to no leeway at all in the pick. So you can be much more accurate, especially when you're trying to play maybe faster runs or whatever, or even just strumming chords. You know, maybe you're trying to strum a chord where you don't play the 6th string and you're going 5th string down. It's much easier to find that with a thicker pick that does not bend like that than it is with a really flimsy thin pick. Yes, I think that's much easier in really honing in on your picking technique, especially when you're starting, is using a thicker pick. And thicker, I mean like, personally, I play with really thick picks. So this is, I'll recommend a couple but this is the big stubby. This is what I use regularly. And look how much thicker that is compared to the medium. It's 3 millimeters. This is Jim Dunlop brand, big stubby. So I always just get these from Guitar Center, or honestly wherever you can find picks. They usually have them. They also have a little version of that, like a jazz pick size. So this one's like tinier and cuter because it's like whittle, but it's still pretty thick. Does not budge at all. The thinnest I would go are these Jazz 3 Tortex picks. I don't use it that often though, because I still prefer thicker than 1.14 millimeters, but it's still pretty good and is really sturdy. The favorite thick pick I have is actually by String Source, which shout out to them. I'm actually endorsed by String Source, and everybody there is fantastic, and they're wonderful human beings. So if you ever want strings, and you can even get custom sets of strings, so I would check out String Source if I were you, because they're amazing. But here's this pick that I really, really like. I tend not to use it as often because I don't want to wear it down that fast, because it's like, it looks really pretty. Like, look at that. That's crazy. But yeah, so personally, I think the thicker the pick that you can get used to, the better. I tend to stay away from thinner picks these days. I won't go any thinner than 2 millimeters. I typically like 3 millimeters, but I digress. It's a personal preference, but I do think the thicker pick you use, especially starting out, the easier it is to really gauge and hone in your picking technique. And as far as string gauges go, I would say the thinner you go, the easier it's going to be to learn. It's sort of similar to the acoustic versus electric kind of explanation, is just there will be less tension when you have to press down on the strings if they're thinner, typically. Yeah, first of all, I would use a thinner string. I always tend to go on the thinner side. When I'm in standard, I use 9s. So a lot of people use 10s. It depends on how hard you pick and, whatnot. But I use 9s for standard tuning, and they've always worked well. I've even had some people that have used 8s for their standard tuning on electric guitars, which to me feels a little thin. I think it's just because I'm used to the 9s, but the 8s are, I've restrung a bunch of 8s before, and it's definitely something to get used to, but it is very easy to be able to play a lot of stuff, a lot of runs, chords, anything that you really need to. But especially when you're just starting out or learning, I think the thinner the string, the easier it's going to be to press it down and really just get used to the chord shapes and things like that. But on another note, with the strings, I highly recommend learning to restring your guitar yourself. I used to work at Guitar Center, and I was the repair tech, and personally, it'll be much cheaper in the long run if you learn how to restring the guitar yourself. Then you only have to pay for the pack of strings, and then you can restring it yourself instead of buying the pack of strings and paying someone else to restring it. There's plenty of fantastic music videos, YouTube videos out there that explain in good depth how to restring your guitar, of all different types, classical, acoustic, electric, and then electric with different headstocks and things like that. So, but if you would like a tutorial from me on how to restring your guitar, feel free to comment below. I'm totally down to do a tutorial on that. I love doing that type of stuff. I love doing repairs still, and modding my guitars or pickup swaps, all that type of stuff, changing the hardware, love all that stuff. So yeah, if you guys want more content on my repair stuff and or, pickup swaps and stuff like that, let me know on that too, because I can also do tutorials on that. So, but yeah, I hope you found these tips helpful in some way, even if you're not a beginner guitarist and you've been playing for a while, maybe you use thinner picks still. I would say try out a thinner or a thicker pick and see how you like it, and see kind of what difference it makes in your playing. I'd be curious to hear what if any differences there are. Yeah, if you guys have any questions or want any specific advice on certain topics as far as music or guitar or songwriting, feel free to comment it below and maybe I'll get to it. I will see you guys this weekend. Remember to stay hydrated. I know I need to drink more water, so you probably should drink more water too. And don't forget to give yourself plenty of rest and be nice to yourself, okay? We can all be nicer to not only each other, but definitely ourselves. So yes, please remember that, and I will see you guys this weekend.